Oh, that's good stuff. Cheers, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope the cat's comfy. Finally, like proper summer weather today. Like last week, it was like in the 40s, and today it was dang near 80s. Spring in New England is not known for its consistency day to day. I have no idea what you're talking about, Ms. Wicked Wolf. So, reminder up front, folks, I will try and keep up with the chat. However, the one thing that will guarantee that I am able to see your question or reply to your comment is to do it as the super chat, which will also get you the gay little heart of appreciation from me. What exactly is the beverage? The beverage is Down East strawberry cider. Full of rain in the UK? Yeah, we had a stretch of that here too. Isn't the UK almost always rain? Isn't that like your whole deal? The weather sucks. The food sucks. The turfs suck. Sorry. Given how big a chunk of my audience is from the UK, I should probably take a step back from that path I was starting to wander down. I hope you have a lovely birthday, Ms. Wicked Wolf. Where is Down East? It's the name of the cider company. They're out of Massachusetts, Isaac. I remember you back in the old days. How old, Ben? I've been doing this almost 13 years. So there are indeed some quite old days. Sending big love. Wouldn't have been able to come out as non-binary without your videos. Oh, thank you, Pass Out. 2014. Oh, you got in there early. Geez. You got in there like the 4,000 subscriber days. Dang. Has a new episode been released on Saturday? No, PD, but like it's only a few days from Saturdays, and some people don't get to things right off. So I don't have a problem with anybody asking broad questions about Doctor Who, but I prefer to avoid having spoilers in the chat because it makes the chat inaccessible to people who are not fully caught up. Not everyone jumps on it as soon as it's out. I do, obviously. It's my job. Or part of it. Remember your Kapali reviews like it was yesterday. Oh, geez. When I was reviewing Capaldi as it aired, I think most of those I'm just standing up in like, God, it's so weird to say now, but what was the designated man cave in the house I was at the time? I was just standing up there. The background was crap. Oh boy. Those were rough. Sometimes I would bust out the green screen, but I didn't always have the patience or the energy. So, Phil Paget, comedian, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Do you think the Batman Part 2 will actually happen? Yeah. I think the simple thing is that Warner Brothers knows Matt Reeves kind of hit something very specific that they don't trust themselves to be able to recreate without him, so they have to wait until he's ready. I think that's all that's happening. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Coyote. Yeah, sometimes it gets to that point. Did you ever watch Batman the Animated Series from 1992? Yeah, I've brought it up intermittently. Good show. How do you edit your videos? Are you asking like what software I use? Because like I don't have formal editing training, so I'm not a good person to turn to for technique. I can tell you what software I'm on if that's what you're asking. I got distracted from watching your latest Doctor Who review. Did you like it? I liked parts of it. I don't think it's spoilery for me to say that. Like what software? I use Pinnacle to do my editing because I dropped Adobe because I hate Adobe. And I dropped Adobe and then they proceeded to get way worse after I dropped them. So it's done nothing but reinforce that decision. I'm not actually going to recommend Pinnacle. Not that it's a bad software program, but they started doing the exact thing that was the reason I dropped Adobe. So I dropped Adobe initially out of bitterness and spite because the software, like my final video, just started having weird things in it, like random pops in the audio that weren't there in the editing suite, and like jittering of the camera when that wasn't there in the raw footage. And my suspicion at the time, and given Adobe's behavior, I stand by the suspicion. My suspicion at the time was because I was working off of a years old version of Adobe Elements, like the most basic bare bones thing. I'd had it for years, and it seemed to be doing a planned obsolescence thing and breaking down and starting to work worse and like failing regularly as time went on. So you're trying to force me to buy the new version. So I switched to Pinnacle, and I might have considered going back to Adobe at some point, except then Adobe started adopting its subscription version because it used to be each new vision of Adobe Premiere you just bought. And now it's like it's a monthly subscription, and that's the only way you can get it. Pinnacle has started doing that too with the newer versions that they have since the version that I got. I forget what, I think I have Pinnacle 20, I think. But like if that ever craps out on me, I don't know, I'll have to find something else because I refuse to get embedded in a subscription model. I want to be able to buy the software, and like when you buy the software, it's expensive. I know that. But like, let me buy it. Let me just buy it and be done with you. Would you say RTD is more realistic sci-fi while Moffat is more fantasy fairy tale? Nope, I would not say that at all. Theory's cameo on record? Yeah, context. I didn't spot him the first time. Somebody mentioned it, and I immediately figured, I bet I know what scene it is. Went back and checked and went, oh, there he is. That was really cool. Keep forgetting that the Harry Potter show is even happening. Yeah, casting news today. Whew. I feel real bad for those kids. I really do. If buying isn't owning and all that, yeah. Like I do not want to perpetually subscribe to a thing that I don't want to change. Like, don't get me wrong, they overcharge and they've gone to hell. But like, there are certain things I'm willing to pay a subscription for. A streaming service, sure. My internet, fine. But like something that I don't expect it to be updated, and my only ask of it is that it keeps working as it did when I got it, I should be able to buy that. And also, Adobe's gone all in AI, and they can choke on the biggest bag of dicks available. Hang on, I'm backing up. You aren't part of this, but after 10 years of consistent negativity with Doctor Who on Twitter after every episode since Magician's Apprentice, after Reality War, I'll officially be leaving the fandom. Honestly, Ben, I would recommend just leaving Twitter. Like, look, I'm someone who's pretty clear about the fact Twitter has always had problems. Twitter is never going to get better, and it has been designed to get worse. I would just get off Twitter. I think you'll find a broader mix of opinions on other platforms. Like, that having been said, I do understand not massively engaging with the fandom. I don't, honestly. Like, there's a couple of spaces I go every now and then, but I do not actually frequent fandom spaces. So when I talk about how the fandom's behaving, that's because it broke containment. And it came across my eyes, even though I'm not normally in those areas. It's not just Twitter, it's everywhere. I mean, I think there's a general... The people who are negative are always the loudest. That's always been the case. But I think as time has gone on, people who got sick of that have left those spaces. So, yeah, that kind of happens. In your review of the story in the engine, you mentioned 15 finding black community. Did 13 ever find a female community or sisterhood? In the show proper, no. Like, they never really... And to be clear, they're not required to. But the show never really did anything with the fact that the Doctor was a woman during Whittaker's run. Again, they're not required to. They don't have to. They can decide, like, we're just not going to... This is just the Doctor. And they could have done that with Gatwa, too. That also would have been fine. But I think it was an interesting thing to explore. And no, they didn't really explore it with Whittaker. So where do you think 14... Oh, for God's sake. Black cover, I saw you ask this question in a comment on the review video. And stop asking. What you are effectively doing is picking up a Batman book and going, why isn't Superman showing up to fix this? 'Cause it's not his story. That's why. There is no logistical explanation required, or at least I certainly don't need one. And in fact, I would be frustrated if I had one. Should I be listening to this live or watch your review? Well, we're trying to avoid the spoilers, so. Is it okay to dead name Twitter? Yeah, Twitter's not a person. Gonna ask a toughie, playing devil's advocate for a second. Oh boy. My friend uses Chat GPT to help him write. He tells me he uses it to organize his plot notes and generate variations of his ideas to help him get through block, etc. I asked him, do you directly copy and paste? He said no. He said every word he types is still his own inspiration of what the website gives him. Is that morally, ethically wrong? If so, what do I tell him? Okay, so there's my actual answer and there's the question you're asking, and they're not going to line up. Because what you're asking is whether or not his use of Chat GPT taints his work so much that his work, through the theft nature of Chat GPT, is now tainted with some degree of plagiarism or something like that. I don't really have an answer for that, because it really is going to fully come down to his process and to what extent he is altering and leaping off from this. Saying every word he types is his own interpretation of what the website gives him, like, okay, but like, is it coming up with the core ideas? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Is it ethical? No. And it's ethical for the reasons that no generative AI is ethical. Regardless of what you do with it, it is built on theft. Regardless of how much you alter the final product to make it your own, so it is not straight up to the theft machine's output, doesn't matter. The technology is built on theft. It is built on scraping copyrighted works. They fully admit to doing that. They are now defending the fact that they do that, and they are frequently just justifying the fact that, like, well, we have to, and acting like we all just have to put up with it now. And the environmental degradation. Now, Chat GPT, as I understand it, isn't as bad as image generators or video generators, but all the large language models are a massive environmental drain. All of them, every single one of them. And we are on a cooked planet right now. And so no, even if we set aside all the plagiarism issues, which I never will, but even if we did, it is still unethical to use it for the same reason that it would be unethical to deliberately cause another hole in the ozone. This is massively damaging to the environment. It's unethical for the same reason that clear cutting in an established forest is unethical. It's unethical for the same reason that deep sea drilling, well, I would say at all, but if you're giving benefit of the doubt, deep sea drilling without proper safety measures so that oil just spills into the ocean is unethical. It's unethical for those reasons, regardless of the output or what anyone does with it. I have no tolerance for AI, if you're new here. Okay, I've had a few super chats come in. I should catch up on those. Andrew Cowam. Andrew, thank you very much for the super chat. Letterboxd. I love that movie. It just gets so much more hate than it deserves. Would you ever do a video on it? Oh God, what movie was I? Oh, okay. You followed up later. Okay, Andrew came back with clarity. I saw you were a fan of The Fountain on Letterboxd. I love that movie. It gets so much more hate than it deserves. Would you ever do a video on it? Unlikely, simply because the video would tank and I know it. And that's not to say that I'd never be up for talking about it, but the thing is, like, I sort of give myself one, maybe two videos a year that I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is going to tank, but I want to do it anyway. And I don't think it prioritizes enough to come in above the other stuff that I would probably do. So, yeah, I do like The Fountain. I like The Fountain very much. But probably not just because if I were to talk about The Fountain, because it is an underappreciated movie, I really want to deep dive into it, which means I'd put a lot of time into it, which means it tanking would just be really bad. Like I would lose so much time and be really underpaid for my efforts doing that. And I don't like that money is a motivator in this, but like my time has value. It has to. Jar Jar Ed. Thank you very much for the super chat. The doctor turned himself in a celery. Celery doctor, funniest thing I've seen. I feel like I'm missing something here. Okay. Christopher, thank you for the super chat. If someone was problematic in the past, but have shown vast improvement in effort over the years to be better, will people forgive? That is you cannot answer that as a broad question. It depends on what the person did, what steps that they have taken to rectify it, and it's going to be a individual's call in each instance. Some people will forgive, some people will never forgive. It is a case-by-case basis. There is no broad sweeping answer to that, unfortunately. Dharma! All hail the council and she who runs the meetings. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. If I already have a Max account, will watching the new Harry Potter support rolling? Yes. Yes, Sailor, it will. Because they will take those viewing numbers as justification to do more seasons of the show. So yeah. Yeah, it will. Of the three showrunners, who's better at writing character story and or compelling series-long arcs? Character, it's a toss-up between RTD and Moffat. Like, on a good day, they're both really good at it, but they're not always really good at it. Story and series-long arcs, it's Moffat. Moffat handled those a lot better than Davies. Davies was always much more into sort of the drama and the soap opera, you know, getting you swept up in the moment. like, sometimes he'd settle down and tell a really good story, but that was rarely his focus. And I don't even necessarily mean that as a dig. That's what he chose to focus on, and it's a valid choice. And then it's a matter of personal preference from there. Vraxis, thank you for the super chat. Have you played Crypt Custodian? I didn't get into Islets personally, but their follow-up was amazing. I have not heard of that. Hang on. Let me take a look on Steam here. Crypt Custodian. Oh, similar art style to Islets. Ooh, overwhelmingly positive. Dang. Okay. All right, I'll bookmark that and maybe take a look at it later. I hadn't even heard of that one. Was that a bucket of pickle juice? Yes, Casey. Yes, it was. Is there a problem? Which is your favorite TARDIS control room? I go back and forth between the 12th Doctor towards the end of his run, where he had like the bookcases and stuff up in the back, and the 11th Doctor's initial version of the TARDIS. Those are the two I go back and forth between. Let's see. Doctor Who turning himself into celebrated Rick and Morty joke. Oh, okay. See, I never got into Rick and Morty. I did about 3 episodes. Decided I really didn't like the characters. And even though like I was seeing some good storytelling and the occasional bit that made me laugh, I was like, I don't like these people. Coyote Azul, thank you for the super chat. Any books or comics you have flat out destroyed because it was that bad and or offensive? One. Literally one. There was a children's book. I think it was called The Seven Ducklings, something like that. And we just had it, in this pile of stuff that we don't even know where it came from. We don't know whose side of the family it came from. But because, when my kid was born, people from both my family and their mother's family, just sent us, oh, here's some books you can read or whatever. So we don't know where the hell this thing came from. But it was abysmal in its lessons. Its lessons were, do what you're told, don't rock the boat, you have a specific assigned role, don't ever try and be anything else. It was horrifying. I remember finishing reading it, and I did finish reading it to my the kiddo wasn't even a year yet, so it was just the sound of my voice. But I closed it and threw it across the room, and we destroyed it because we're like, we're not donating that. No one should read that. The one other thing that was close, and I probably would have destroyed it if it had been mine, but it was loaned, was I think it was the 3rd volume of the New 52 Wonder Woman. Brian Azzarello, his run on Wonder Woman is one of the worst freaking things I have ever read. It is really abysmally, horrifyingly bad, and the degree to which it does not understand Wonder Woman is inexcusable. It is so bad. And volume it was already not good, but I got to volume 3 and I just hit a point where I'm like, no, closed it, and I tossed it across the room. I didn't destroy it because it was loaned and I had to give it back. I didn't damage it, but god damn. Oh, it was so bad. Oh. I keep debating whether or not I like want to do a full dissection of how bad it was. Wonder Woman too violent, misanthropic? No, Black Cover. There isn't a single female character, including Diana, in that run who isn't special or empowered because of their connection to a man. There is literally none. Every single woman in that entire story, at least as far as I got, is only special, notable, or part of the story because of who she screwed or who her daddy is, aka who her mother screwed. There is no woman in that story who is empowered by her own means or by feminine means. All of their power, every single woman in that story, all their power is derived by connections to men. I'm gonna swear, it's fucking gross. Oh my god, I hate it. I hate it so much. Ugh. Question about writing short stories / novels. Are you a plotter that plans out everything beforehand, or do you lash onto one idea and try to naturally expand it / improv? I need to, at the very least, know what the ending is. I've never finished a story where I didn't know how it was going to end, because eventually I just run out of steam. I need to know where the finish line is. I will usually have bullet points in my head. What those bullet points are will vary. Sometimes it's like, often for me, one of the first things I write is dialogue scenes, because it's what I'm kind of drawn to. So I'll often like write out the dialogue scene, some of the major dialogue scenes, and then I'll start writing. I'll start writing the connective tissue later when I actually try and get the whole thing pulled together. But I do need to at least know the ending, because if I don't, there's no way I'm going to finish the thing. At least they didn't depower Diane again. That would have been better, honestly. Was there a book that made you cry? Sure, there's plenty of books that made me cry. Super question, was she weak to being bound by a man? No, like, okay, so when Wonder Woman was reinvented in the 80s, they had her be, she had no father. She was molded from clay by her mother, which was perfect. It meant that all of her power was derived from the feminine, from Themyscira, from women. In the New 52, she had powers because Zeus was her daddy. So they removed her purely feminine creation, and now she's only powerful because her dad shoots lightning bolts out of his dick. Oh, and they made the entire island of Themyscira a bunch of murdering misandrists who rape men and drown them. I wish I was joking. Would you ever do a review video for the Tales of the TARDIS minisodes? Probably not, Rebecca. I just don't think there's enough there. I wouldn't feel like I'd have anything to say besides like a little recap and going, oh, that was nice. Like, there just isn't enough meat on those bones. Why do you think the actors to play the Doctor in the new series have had more success post-Who than their classic counterparts? I think it just has to do with how much bigger Doctor Who is now. Like, Doctor Who was a fun niche show in the UK during its classic run. It found a little bit of traction in the US when PBS started airing episodes, but like when it came back, especially by the time Tennant was done and by the time Smith came in, like it had an international audience. So like the scale and scope of it is much bigger. So I think it's fairly natural given how much bigger the show is now than it was then. What is the one quirk from RTD, Moffat, and Chibnel that annoys you the most? RTD, it's Deus Ex Machinas. Chibnel is just the times that he gets more interested in tying up the logistics than he does in the character. No, Moffat, I mean, for that. And Chibnel is everything. I'm sorry, that's mean. But like the best episode, well, most of the best episodes, the only good episode of his era that he wrote was Power of the Doctor, which I do like. But the rest of the run, all the good episodes were written by other people. All right. On your Patreon tier, is there anything like critiquing short pieces of work from patrons? Because I'm doing this thing and you'd have good insight. I don't have it as a tier because I work. So like, here's the thing. Commissioned reviews, I have very slow turnaround on. Like just because I'm buried in them and I have a bunch of other stuff that I do. So part of the reason I would be disinclined to do that is anyone who requests something like that probably wants it relatively quickly so they could actually act on notes. And I can't guarantee a quick turnaround, even even being paid because I've got all this other stuff to do. So, like, I do enjoy giving critique notes, but no, that's not something like I also used to and I've still got at least one I need to cover. I also took in the past several like pieces of like unpublished work, like stuff that's up on Wattpad or fan fiction, and I won't do that again. Not because like the works were so awful, but like if I'm gonna do anything written, I really need to be able to get it in audiobook form, or it's going to take me forever and be a massive drain on my energy. Sitting down to read books is just, it's really hard. It's really hard for me at this point. Anyways, I need to pop over to the Discord real quick. If you have asked me a question, hold it, wait until I come back. Then you can ask it again if you still want to. And I will be right back. Reminder, the Council of Geeks Discord is a Patreon exclusive perk, $2 tier, and gets you access to that with a lovely group of people. And yes, I am over on there too. So a lovely group of people and me. A non-binary person I know once told me, if you've ever had to think about your gender identity, you're probably not entirely cis. Thoughts on that take? Personally, I worry it would be taken as discouraging cis people from thinking about their own gender at all. I mean, it's not a hard line, but I do think it is a rule of thumb that people, straight people don't wonder if they're gay, cis people don't wonder if they're trans. Like, as a general rule, as a guiding principle, it is most of the time true. That said, I would encourage cisgender people to explore their gender, if only to find the most comfortable way that they can express it, so they're not just stuck in, the societal boxes of what a man is, what a woman is. Like, what is your definition of what it means to be a man? I would still encourage cis people to explore that, but if you are actively questioning, like, is this even what I am, then there's a good chance you're probably not cis. Do you try to be optimistic about the future, or do you try to find personal reasons to be happy in spite of knowing the world in general is getting worse? Pass. Do you, you know how part of the reason Ronald D. Moore made Battlestar Galactica is he didn't like how Voyager never dealt with the realities of being stuck in space without resupply and wanted a show that did? Do you think there's a point at which that commitment to realism can make something so bleak it's unwatchable? Last year, I read a book where aliens invade Earth and banish humanity to the South Pole. Yeah, you told me about that. The book was good overall, but the author goes so far in depicting what would actually be like. It was kind of harrowing to read. Yeah, you can take things too far in that direction, or at least for my taste. Like some writers want to make a harrowing read, and like they're certainly entitled to do that. I won't read it, but I mean, it's still an artistically valid thing to do. You'll just lose me. Considering that seasons 1 and 2 of the current era of Doctor Who were shot back to back, why do you think season 2 has been such a leap in quality? Has it? I don't know if I agree with your premise. Other than the Interstellar Song Contest, the floor has been raised, but so is the ceiling, meaning that the bad episodes are not as bad so far as the bad ones in season 1, but the good episodes also aren't as good. We don't have a 73 yards. We don't have a dot and bubble. We just don't have anything that has blown me away like that. So I don't think I fully agree with your premise, which means that I can't really answer the question, because you're asking me, why do you think season 2 is a leap in quality? And I don't agree that it is. I don't think it's a drop in quality. I think it's a shifting around of things. Let's see. Give me 1 second here, folks. Okay, I'm back. Do you believe that 15 remembering what happened to the Fugitive Doctor and the daughter of Anansi suggests that he has looked inside the fob watch like others have speculated? No, I don't think that at all. I think what happened is being in the room with Anansi's daughter triggered those memories, and I think the use of the Fugitive Doctor in that image was for the sake of the audience, so the audience knows which doctor it was. My suspicion is that when he was in the room with her, he remembered what had happened and what his connection to her was, but he doesn't remember who he was at the time. That's my personal suspicion and headcanon on that scene. Think of it the same way how, like, it's been covered repeatedly that following a multi-doctor story, the doctor, the younger doctors don't remember what happened. So it's not like when they re-experience that story as one of the later regenerations that they already know what happens. You know, kind of a similar principle. Which episode of Doctor Who caused the biggest change of opinion on a rewatch? Kerblam! I rather enjoyed that one, the first one I watched it, because I got wrapped up in the fun of it. It was a rollicking little adventure in terms of tone, and I really appreciated that. And it felt like, this is what I like from Doctor Who. And it really was time and a rewatch that made me realize how broken that episode is. It's real broken. Given the relative success of games like Sundered and Dead Cells, is the Metroidvania at its peak? Well, these aren't exactly new games. Dead Cells is like a decade old at this point, and Sundered is like 4 years old. Besides which, like, I don't know. I'm a bad person to ask. Like, are we at peak X? I'm like, I don't know. If it's a thing I like, I'm enjoying that we have it. If it's the thing I don't like, I don't care. Since Star Wars is space opera, how do you feel about actors like Ben Bratt subbing out for actors like Jimmy Smits? I don't know what being a space opera has to do with the rest of your question, but I was fine with that. I thought Ben Bratt did a perfectly good job, and also, like, it was just a scheduling thing. There wasn't anything to be done about it. So, yeah, it was fine. You've been hired to do voice work for an animated feature. Who is your character you're doing, and why is it in Has Been Hotel? You don't understand how voice acting works. Like, you audition, you get in something, and if you're lucky, a director says, okay, you will be this character. If I ever get to voice character in anything, at that level, I don't get to choose what it is I'm doing. I can choose who I audition for, but that's it. And I'm pretty sure Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss are too big for open auditions. What is your favorite Star Trek theme, irrespective of the show or the film? I don't remember that many of the themes. Like, my default theme is Next Generation theme. I really like that one. I don't think this is a spoiler, but could RTD ever do a season finale that does not draw on classic era as he did every time in his first run and last season? Even Moffat managed that one time. Just the one, of course, and it was messy. RTD does not... Like, this was what I was afraid of at the instant he came back as showrunner, was that he was just going to slip back into how he'd handled the show during his first run, which is exactly what he has done. Because the thing is, there's nothing wrong with his desire to escalate things to grand operatic stakes, and here's the classic Doctor Who villain who's coming back for the finale, and here's, we're either about to destroy the Earth or we're about to destroy the universe, or, whatever. And it wasn't that either of those is inherently bad, but as a pattern, it gets real old. And the fact that he's just gone right back to doing that is my biggest disappointment, for the most part. Can he do a season finale without doing that? Apparently not. I mean, I guess the closest was End of Time, because Rassilon, while an existing established character, wasn't really established as a villain per se. He wasn't a good guy. He was he was mildly antagonistic, like the few times he'd come up, but like, I guess that's the one time. He still brought back a classic character, but it wasn't a villain, technically. And also, the other thing I'll say about End of Time is, like, the fact that it is Rassilon is literally one throwaway line just before the guy goes back gets sent back. And it is just the reemergence of the Time Lords, which, yes, is technically bringing back something from classic, but also the modern era had fully established the idea of Gallifrey being gone and the Time Lords. So, like, there was weight to them coming back. And I think that was about as well as bringing back a classic thing could be handled, because that was the one that I think required, well, that and Doomsday, I guess, because the actual reemergence of the Daleks and the Cybermen had been handled already in other stories. But those are the two where there is really no need for classic era knowledge. And even the other ones, like, did their work to have it function. But, like, Sutek is not really introduced very well. The Ronnie's not really introduced very well. Yeah, moving on. I always love seeing your rants during your outros. My condolences on the loss of Brownie. Thank you very much. How did you get into having pet rats? I just got a rat in my 20s. I got a few rats. My first rat was a rat that I named Nicodemus, and he was great. And I didn't get rats again for a while after that, but when my kiddo started to get older and was, we wanted something that would last a little bit longer than hamsters, we started getting rats again. Any advice for someone considering getting a pet rat? Don't get only one rat. They're social animals. Get at least two, and make sure they are of the same gender. Rat litters are no joke. Are they as cuddly as they seem? Yeah, if you hand train them. Like, you got to get them used to being picked up and handled. There is some actual training involved, but yeah. They're sweet. All right, I am back in the main chat. Whoa, Jennifer De Benedetto. Hello there. Thank you very much for the super chat. Quite generous. Thank you for the Mysteries Need to Be Meaningful video and the recent Doctor Who reviews. You are very welcome, and thank you for your generosity. I greatly appreciate it. Why are all goth pets ats? Rats, cats, and bats. I don't know. Does anyone actually have pet bats? I'm not sure that they shouldn't. Yeah, feral rats you don't want in your house, Jaboogie. Would you consider the eras of Doctor Who classic era, first revival, second revival? Yeah, sure. I prefer a dog if I'm being honest. I like dogs. I do like having more low maintenance pets though. Kyle Volti, thank you very much for the super chat. Oh God, it's a joke, isn't it? What do you call a waterfowl that arrives at its destination before it leaves? A temporal pair of ducks. What? Hold on. What do you call a waterfowl that arrives at its destination? Temporal pair. Oh, pair of ducks like paradox. You should do that as pair O, like take the F off and do it at O apostrophe. Paradox. It'll scan better. Nobody should have a pet frat, Coyote, at all. Will it bother you if they don't explain how Mrs. Flood is able to break the fourth wall? Yeah, not enough that I'll go off on it, but it is kind of like, it is one of those things where like, so why the hell was that there? Like, at this point, I've given up on waiting for an explanation of that. I've just accepted that I'm not going to get one. It's kind of the same thing where I'm at, where like somebody asked, oh, you didn't bring up the relationship between Kate and, I keep forgetting his damn name, but the two of them, which you're always on about because she's his boss. And yeah, I'm not going off on it every time. Like, I didn't mention it when I talked about the latest episode because, like, it's a thing they're doing, and my bitching about it isn't going to change that. So, was naming your first rat Nicodemus a reference to Secret of Nim? Yes, it was, Sailor. Well spotted. Does it say anything that all three modern New Who showrunners have been middle-aged white men, i.e. sometimes wonky, out-of-touch messaging, but not done on purpose or maliciously? I mean, I wouldn't read too much into that. I mean, that is just kind of the established, like, people with enough clout to be able to get a whole show to run. That's just kind of who it is. Like, there's something to what you're saying. I just don't overbank on that. Parrots are goth. Fight me. They have can openers for faces. Cheers, Context French. If you have a parrot, no, I will not be fighting you. The issue with RTD's classic returns is the structure of the series. Dalek, Cyberman, Master, etc. were all set up in earlier episodes. Sutek and the Rani, and the new one were not. Yeah, that is true. Although you could also argue that the Toymaker wasn't really set up either. That one still worked. What is the worst thing you've seen out of the MCU? I've got to think, because I bet you it'll be something I barely remember. I gotta see a list. Hang on. Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right. So let's see. Give me a list of films and a list of TV shows. Let's see. What's real bad here? Films. That one's pretty bad. That one's pretty bad. They're not horrible though. I'm trying to find something that like will get a real out of me. Like that should have been better. Ooh, maybe you. Okay, I've got a candidate. I'm still scrolling. And let's see the shows. Ooh, Secret Invasion. Oh, Secret Invasion. Damn, I forgot about Secret Invasion. Oh, no. Oh, good Lord. Oh, I'm out of booze. Oh. Secret Invasion was so bad. Oh, my God. Oh, God, it was awful. Oh. Oh. If anyone's wondering, the candidate who would have gotten it if Secret Invasion didn't exist is Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. That would have been it if it wasn't for Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion is a lot worse than that, though. Like, it's that. Oh, it's so bad. It is so bad. Damn. Coyote Azul. Back again. Maybe we need a penalty box for bad jokes around here. 2-minute minimum. Nah. It's all in good fun. Excuse me. Supreme Omega. Oh my God. It's Omega. Very happy to have you here. On Revenge of the Sith, you gotta admit, ending a family-friendly IP blockbuster with child murder and domestic abuse is ballsy. The Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith is the only prequel movie I own. Garlic. Oh, that's good. Has anyone ever given the doctors with numbers distinguishing names like War and Fugitive Doctors to? I mean, colloquially, I've seen fandoms. Let me see if I can remember some of what they've been called. So I've seen like the first Doctor, like you kind of go by archetype. So some of these I've seen, some of these I'm just gonna kind of move forward with my own takes on them. First Doctor, the Professor. Second Doctor, the Clown. Third Doctor, the Gentleman Spy. Fourth Doctor, the Bohemian. Fifth Doctor, the Dapper Gent. Sixth Doctor needs to be sectioned. Seventh Doctor, the chess master. Eighth Doctor, the romantic. Ninth Doctor, the soldier. 10th Doctor. Ooh, is that mean? 10th Doctor, the ego. 11th Doctor, the madman with the box. 12th Doctor, the good man. 13th Doctor, the mechanic. 14th Doctor, I don't know what I'd go with for him. The therapy patient. 15th Doctor, I'm not sure yet. Uh, what is a bigger conflict, the time war or your battle against generative AI? I don't know. We'll see what's left standing after I burn AI to the ground. Also, based on what you're eating right now, at least you're protected from the Slitheen. Oh, that's true. Forgot about that. Mm. Oh, I see. We had someone doing their own in here. Fifth Doctor, my dad. 10th, Mr. Sexy. The Hair Doctor. Dr. Scarf. 15th Doctor, Sad Boy. Maybe. 15th Doctor. 15th Doctor, the single tear. I would argue The Woman Who Fell to Earth is a very strong episode. Just same, nothing set up was continued other than the character names. It's okay. It didn't do a ton for me just because when I compare it to other first outings for Doctors, it didn't establish the Doctor's personality as swiftly as my favorite first adventures for, Doctors post-regeneration. I would call 10 the Lonely God. Oh! Yeah. No, I've seen that one used for 10. My favorite thing about the reveal in Utopia is Tennant's reaction. He's not even considering being another Time Lord. He knows exactly who Jan is. Yeah, that helps sell it a fair bit, which I think has been part of the problem with the Ronnie specifically. Like, when the reveal happened, the Doctor wasn't even there. Like, at least with Sutek, even, the Doctor was there, and so you had a performance selling the fear and the horror of this guy showing up. But, like, the Ronnie, it's just nobody was there. Who cares? Whew. I'm drawing a lovingly mean-spirited 10 comic right now. Given the sudden focus on wheelchair users last episode, I think RTD wants to bring back Davros. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you think there's any credence? No. No. I think that no, I don't. I see how you got there, but that strikes me as a very strange conclusion to come to. To me, at least for me, and how my brain works. I've heard 3 called the Dandy. That works. Supreme Omega. We got to wrap it up soon. Thank you once again for the super chat. On OG Star Wars trilogy, do you find it odd that Leia, out of the main cast, doesn't have her own internal arc like Luke, Han, Lando, or Vader? No. I mean, I don't think that there's a problem having a member of the cast who just has their crap together. I think it's usually a good thing to have at least one person like that. That's who she is. She's the one who has her crap together. My favorite name for the Doctor is unit calling the second Doctor the Cosmic Hobo. Yeah, I remember that one. Just finish the remnants of my pickles. There we go. What's my favorite dinner? I don't have a set favorite dinner, Matt. Depends on whether or not I have a budget for for takeout. As a wheelchair user, I hate use of Davros. Like, I'm not going to argue for Davros one way or the other, not tonight at least. Like, I need to wrap it up, and I'm like a drink in. And it's a sensitive enough topic. I don't want to stick my foot in it. But I will say, like, just the idea of, like, there's been more wheelchair users, therefore they're bringing back Davros, strikes me as a very odd thing. Because, like, as a person who does not have any notable physical disabilities at this point in my life, I didn't think of Davros as, like, having was I thought of him as having the bottom half of a Dalek, which in my head at least detached him enough from actual wheelchair users that we have in our world that I at least didn't connect him to the disabled community. Like, did he fit the, scarred and disfigured villain trope? Well, yeah, within that aspect of disability, yeah, absolutely, 100%. But I tended to think of him as more the middle ground between the Khaleds and the Daleks than I thought of him as being disabled. But again, I do not have currently any particular physical disabilities that I am dealing with or coping with, and I'm not part of that community. So do not take anything that I say as having more weight than anything said by an actual member of that community. There we go. I think I managed to not fully cause that problem. Is Davros naturally disabled, or is he a cyborg by choice? Well, if you consider Big Finish to be canon, neither. He had an accident, which makes it very much, a disability that occurred to him, due to an event. I don't know if I am still live, because I just had the thing kind of hiccup on me twice. Is Davros dead or still around? I mean, he's one of those characters who is in a perpetual super state between the two. He's always, like, theoretically died in his last appearance, but also will show up again. He's one of those. But anyways, I am going to stop there. I've gone a little bit over time. Thank you all for joining me. This has been lovely. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, a good rest of the week, good rest of the month, Pride Month next month. And I hope you have lovely plans for that. So thank you all very much for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Be well, be safe, be kind, and please remember that you are beautiful. You are valid, and you are loved. You are the council, and I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!